And we are live. So, welcome to our continuing coverage of Showtime's horror series, Penny Dreadful. I am the American Werewolf, and with me tonight in the house, I've got the Gorephobe. Stopping in to say, hey, he's been here for every episode, and we're halfway through season 1. It's 8 episodes in the season. This was an odd episode. There's no fucking getting around it, especially the ending. To this day, I still don't know what the fuck that. And like, I haven't given away any spoilers, except I'm going to say right now, like that never comes up again.
Okay.
So I don't know why the fuck that was put in there. I have no idea where the fuck that came from. And we'll get into it. But thank you for joining me again. Like we start with every episode, let me know what did you think, without giving it away, what you thought of this week's episode.
I kind of like how everything tied in together, during that one particular scene where everybody kind of ends up sort of the same place.
Yeah, that was cool.
And, very surprising, just like you said. There's a character that's introduced here that I've been wondering if it was going to be introduced, played by a really great actor that's no longer.
Yeah, that was fantastic. That was fantastic. We got to see the great David Warner playing, of all things, Professor Van Helsing.
Yeah, I was surprised by that.
Yeah, I mean, what more could you ask for? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So he's been gone, a couple of years now?
Yeah, he's been gone a couple of years now, but this is 2014, so it was 9 years ago. He was still with us, and still, he's only in it for maybe 5 minutes, but just, I mean, he just steals it.
Yeah,
he just steals the scene. Yeah. I always say, I wasn't a fan of Donner's The Omen, but his death was one of the most impressive. That was a scene stealer, and maybe one or two other scenes. Okay, so let's get into it. We start off with Dorian Gray, and Dorian Gray plays a significant part in this episode for a lot of different reasons. And it starts off, and we're at Dorian Gray's flat, and he's just chilling there, and they're having like a low-key orgy.
Yeah.
It's like a low-key orgy. They've got this girl tied up, and you got nude women and nude guys, and people are laying on the couch smoking opium, and, there's just everything going, it is, the libertines' playground, and that's what Dorian Gray is. That's exactly who Dorian Gray is. He is Mr. Good Time. Like I think many people who pursue that kind of that lifestyle, excuse me. Hold on one second, please. Sorry about that. There's not much substance to it.
Right.
There's absolutely no substance to anything that he does. So everything is appealing on a very superficial level. But you can see that he is bored. Yeah. He's in his own party. He's got beautiful women there. People are just, going at it left and right. And he's just got this look on his face like he would rather be anywhere else but there.
He's studying his paintings and all this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no substance to it. It just seems like that's the way he's approaching life these days. You know what I mean? He's looking for something, some kind of, just like you said, some kind of substance. And I think he's just done everything to the point to where he just needs something different.
Yeah, and that's what he's constantly searching for. When he was banging Brona Croft in the first episode, he's very bored until he finds out that she's tubercular. And then, he really starts to get excited when she coughs the blood up on him, It's just like anything new. It's like that old that line from the book of Ecclesiastes. There's nothing new under the sun.
Right.
And everything that he does is just so superficial that there's just no real enjoyment in anything anymore. The things, because like every every normal pleasure has been ruined by all these fucking other things that he's been doing for God knows how long.
Yeah, he's just checking out his paintings and all this kind of stuff. That's basically what he's doing. He's just looking at the paintings.
Well, you can see that, yeah, you can see that he has one painting in particular that he is checking out, and you don't see what it is, but, you know, it's after the party is over, you know, whatever. They're sleeping it off. You don't see what happens to any of these people because they don't matter.
Right.
He goes back and he's checking out this one particular painting. And if you know anything about Dorian Gray, and I think I talked to you about this before, he is he's ancient,
Right.
but he doesn't age. But the painting does age, and it shows exactly how old he is, and probably, he's very smooth, and he's got this effeminate kind of thing going on there. I think the painting probably depicts kind of how depraved he really is, because he kind of is.
Yeah.
It doesn't show in his face and his line, the way he walks and talks. He's all very smooth. He's a player, this, that, or the other. But I think the painting accurately represents, who he is, not only on the outside, but, inside too.
Yeah, he's a person who basically has everything yet nothing at all.
Yeah, pretty much. And there he is. He's just, sitting in his room all by himself, just staring at this portrait. And at the end of the day, that's kind of who he is. He's alone.
Yeah.
He's alone. He goes to this secluded room and he just sits there in that single chair. The rest of the house is very opulent and beautiful, and they've got beautiful classical music and arias going on. But at the end of the day, when he's by himself, this is kind of it. He just kind of sits there in front of that painting,
right?
And sees who he really is.
Yeah.
What
is he? Why is he so old? Do we get an answer to that later on?
No, you never really get an answer to that. I don't know if I can't remember even if in the book by Oscar Wilde if he explains it. But no, it's not like he's a vampire or something like that. He's just this eternal libertine who forever stays youthful and young. As this painting, he has this one painting that ages and shows, what he really looks like.
So it's kind of hard for him to really love anybody, really care about anybody, because it's just like being a vampire. All you do is watch him come and go. You know what I mean? So he just tries to live it up and have fun as much as he can. And now even that's gotten old.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. He's, I guess if you live long enough, there's nothing really to, there's nothing really to do anymore. There's nothing new. There's nothing new. So we come to the next scene, and we're back with Vanessa, and she's outside this Catholic church, and she's approached by this odd kid. What did you see there?
Well, it was really strange because she was talking about how her mother died. And I was really curious, when she said, that they never stayed dead. You know what I mean? And so I'm really kind of curious where she's going with that. And then she talks about, heaven. And then she talks about the stepmother being a beast. And, there's all kinds of things going there.
Yeah, the kid, it's the kind of dialogue where things could have two meanings.
Right.
You're not really sure if she is who she says she is, if she's just really this little kid who just happens to be having this conversation with Vanessa, this organic conversation, or is she there for a more menacing purpose? Right. I kind of think it's the former. She's just a kid, and what she says kind of triggers Vanessa's fears, because Vanessa's sitting outside this church staring at it, and the little girl just walks up to her and says, why don't you just go in? She kind of intuits it. The way that little kids can intuit things. They haven't, got that cynicism yet that, we have in adults where we, kind of turn that part of ourselves off. And she just starts having this conversation with her.
Kids kind of tell how it is. Yeah.
Yeah, they can tell, if you're scared or, she's like, how can you tell I want to go in? She's just like, by the way you look at it, you know?
Yeah, there's no filter. Yeah,
Yeah, there's no filter. It's hard to hide things from kids sometimes. They pick up on things. So, we have that conversation, and then she kind of leaves, and it is a little menacing because you're not sure exactly where she comes from.
it's kind of
If this,
spooky.
yeah, she kind of spooks her. She kind of spooks her. Um, you know, and then she just kind of leaves, but then she sees Dorian Gray.
Yeah,
And she's got to follow that smooth talking Dorian Gray character, around everywhere. And
yeah,
before you know it, they're having a nice little conversation, and you can tell he's fast. He wants Vanessa because she's different. She's
yeah,
different.
yeah.
She's
Everything.
just a different kind of woman.
And you just talk about the two meanings. It's like everything he says kind of has two meanings too. Like he like she asked if the plant's poisonous, and he says, well, yeah, most as most beautiful things are, and he's looking at her. So it's like everything he does is in a way seductive.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. There's definitely he's got game. Dorian's
Yes,
got game there. He's using it all the time on Vanessa. Um, you get the impression that Vanessa doesn't get out much, in that
right,
kind of way. So he's smooth, and he's just kind of going shooting a shot here. With this new fascinating woman that he's found, and he has got that jaded sort of thing because you're right. She's like, is this thing poisonous? The rare flower that they see, and it only blooms every 15 years for a short period of time. And he's like all beautiful things, I certainly hope so. So
yeah,
he's definitely got a dark side to him. It's not all just parties and just sex and drugs and whatever. And we'll get into a lot more of that as the show um, continues. Now we finally get to what I thought was one of the great highlights of the show.
yeah,
Um, we've got the great David Warner. And I remember the first time I saw this, I was just so fucking happy
yeah. So
uh, seeing David Warner, uh, who's just a star of so many things. When we covered for Christmas, we do traditional movies for Christmas. So we covered George C. Scott's A Christmas Carol, which is my favorite Christmas Carol, the one with George C. Scott. He plays Bob Cratchit. And you put George C. Scott and David Warner together, and you're just like, you're in heaven, man. This is just like acting heaven. And to
yeah,
see him in this great, I mean, because you thought you're maxed out with Timothy Dalton, Eva Green, Josh Hartnett, Rory Cochrane, and just all these, great stars that are up there doing it. And then, it's like the icing on the cake.
right. Yeah, I was really happy to see him. Did you ever see the movie that I was talking about with him and Malcolm McDowell and Mary Steenburgen, Time After Time? Did you ever see that one yet?
That's the one with Jack the Ripper, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one where he plays Jack the Ripper and Malcolm McDowell plays H.G. Wells, and he's just putting together the time machine at that time.
Okay, do me a favor. DM me a message about that, because otherwise I'll always forget.
Okay,
I'll
no
forget
problem.
about it, but DM me and I'll find it. All right. So he's helping Dr. Frankenstein, and I think that's just a great mix
Yeah,
of the two. You've got Professor Van Helsing, the two great Gothic characters, working together to solve this mystery of the blood. Van Helsing kind of hints that he knows, like he figures it out instantly, what it is
yeah,
that they're doing, because he's Van Helsing, and he's like, yeah, I know about this intimately.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. He
I,
says, yeah. He says that Sir Michael's messing with something that he doesn't understand, and he's like, well, do you understand it? And he says, intimately,
yeah,
like as only David Warner could say it.
yeah, exactly, exactly. It's fantastic to watch. I love it. It's great stuff. There's going to be more David Warner. Obviously, Van Helsing isn't going to, just going to be here for 5 minutes. So, I didn't want to make mention of that, to, throw a spoiler in there. But yeah, that's good to see. Unfortunately, what we also see, what Van Helsing is talking about, is that this has something to do with the eating of blood.
Yeah.
What he called hematography. I can't pronounce how he said it. A disorder that has to do with the eating of blood. So, they're getting a little bit into the science of it as much as is possible when Dr. Frankenstein sees somebody skulking around outside.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So why don't you take it from here?
Well, he sees Caliban, which is the monster.
Yeah.
And he's basically pushing to, hey, why haven't you got my bride together yet? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like, well, it's going to take time. He's like, well, you can't get it done in there, basically. So then he's desperate. You know what I mean? He said, I want my bride to be beautiful. And then of course Victor has to be obnoxious and insult him and be like her mate. You know, and
I'll be honest. I thought, the monster Caliban. I like him, but at times he's exceedingly, just annoying. Like, just get the fuck out of the way, But like, I do feel sympathy for him, but then I don't sometimes.
Yeah, but then at the same time, he basically lets him know that, hey, your kind's days have passed. It's going to be, it's coming the days of my kind, the immortal, people like me. So look upon your master, and that kind of fucked up Victor.
It would have been great if he had said, "Yeah, you can't even get laid. Shut the fuck up."
Yeah. I found out something about him, about Rory Kinnear. He played Lago in a Shakespeare play, and he won the Oliver Award. And he also played Bill Tanner in Quantum of Solace.
Oh yeah. I remember him in Quantum of Solace. He's in that scene with Mr. White in the interrogation scene with Mr. White. He's M's assistant. But yeah, playing Iago, that wouldn't surprise me at all. Great Shakespearean actor, probably. Iago's a great fucking role, and he's the antagonist in Othello. He's the guy that drives Othello into killing his wife. He's good. It's Rory Kinnear. That's right. I said Rory Cochrane. It's Rory Kinnear. So we're going on, and we hear this story. We're getting a bit more into Brona's backstory, which is really the true horror story here. Because as always, the things that are most fucked up are the things that people do to each other. It's not vampires. It's not like when you're 10 years old, it's werewolves. When you're, then it's vampires. It's, it's demons, it's ghosts, it's whatever. As we become adults, we get to see that the real horror in the world has to do with people.
Each other.
Yeah. And this story is full of that. And she is just the embodiment of that.
That was a fucked up story that she told him. Yeah. That was messed up.
Yeah, and I like what they do with her. She is a fucked up person.
She sells it really well too, man.
She's a great actress.
Yeah, when she's telling the story, you can see the pain on her. Like for instance, when she's telling about the man that she's engaged to, and how mean he is to her sexually and everything, and she goes and tells her mom, and all her mom says is go marry him. And right before she says, when she says, my mother says, and she gets this pain look on her face, kind of closes her eyes. She says, "Go marry him," and you can just see the pain on her.
Yeah, and that was the first time she went out and just she left her mom's house and went out and fucked someone for money.
Yep,
that was how it started. She was engaged to this very rough man. He was rough with her physically. He was rough with her sexually. Yeah, she went to complain to her mother, and mom said, "Yeah, just marry him."
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and
because mom just wanted her to marry into a little bit of money. That's all mom cared about was being set.
yeah, they don't.
Not
Well, they don't. There's no for people like this. There's no frame of reference for happiness.
right.
Like that's a foreign concept, and it's
Yeah.
it's very apparent in Brona's character, which comes up
Um,
much later. Which
well,
comes up much later.
you
Well, I
don't
mean,
become a
later in this
prostitute.
episode. Go ahead.
You you don't become a prostitute or a hooker or whatever coming from a happy, good childhood and a happy, good upbringing. That's just the bottom line of it.
Yeah, and you don't shake all that off if
Right.
you meet some nice person,
Right. You bring it
or
all
if
with
you
you.
meet a good person. You're still a very fucked up person, and sooner or later,
Right.
I think that's what the term a crackpot comes from. If a pot has cracks in it, once you pour water in it, then you're going to find out where the leaks are.
Exactly.
And now in this new situation where she's met someone who,
She doesn't know how to be happy. She has no
yeah,
idea how to be happy.
she doesn't know how to deal with it. She
Yeah.
doesn't know how to deal with it. And so that comes up much later on
Right.
in this episode. That brings us back to Mr. Fenton.
Right. Yeah.
This is a fucked up section of the show. They're experimenting on him.
Yeah.
And it's not going very well.
No, he's still fighting them. They're trying to give him this serum. It's not working out the way they want it to, so they figured let's give him a transfusion, and he's not having it, so they're gonna put his ass out.
Yeah, and it's a cruel thing.
Yeah.
You're watching the supposed heroes or the protagonists and the good guys, chain this thing to, it's one thing if we see a vampire movie and, they drive a stake through its heart and, chop off its head or, whatever it is that they do. But here they've got this, and it's a vampire, but it's also a kid. It's obviously a kid and a boy. And they kind of are torturing it. To figure, and they're just kind of looking at it the way that, they would, have some sort of lab animal, or something like that.
Because, face it, they're not doing it to help Fenton. They're doing it to help themselves. You know what I mean? So, and that's part of what's bothering Ethan because, you see even more of Ethan in this episode. You see even more of the humanitarian that he is and how he's got a really big heart. He doesn't like to see anything suffer.
Yeah, it's not pleasant. They're starving it. It just kind of wants to eat.
Right.
It's Fenton is screaming and crying, and it's just this awful fucking thing going on. And I just thought one of the best fucking scenes in there was when Sembeni comes with that fucking cat.
Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't expecting that.
And Sembeni, and as I said earlier, Sembeni is one of my favorite characters in this. His role doesn't start to become more pronounced until right about this time. He's obviously not a character with the most lines, but he becomes my favorite because this thing is starving and they're like, well, maybe we can go to the butcher shop and get some raw meat. And he just pulls a fucking cat off the street and just breaks its fucking neck and throws it right in fucking Fenton's lap. And Fenton just starts fucking chowing down. And you're just like, and he just does it and walks away, breaks the neck, drops it in the lap, and just walks the fuck away. And I just love that.
And he doesn't hesitate either. He's like, Derek, that's what I'm talking about, some food. Some good warm fucking meat, some good warm blood.
Yeah.
One of the coolest parts about this scene is when Fenton looks up and he says, all the monsters.
Yeah, so many monsters.
He's looking at them. So you know what I mean? I get it to where he's referring to them as the monsters and they're looking at him as the monster.
Yeah, and we talked about this last week, where they admitted that none of them are kind. You know, they've
Right.
been brutalized. It's made them brutal in return. And the only real loyalty they have is to each other. But even then, Sir Malcolm was willing to use Vanessa as bait at the zoo.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, you know, it's a shaky moral compass that's at work here.
Yeah.
We come back to one other scene, and we're sort of moving on to Brona and Ethan, and I just love this scene where they're at the theater,
Uh-huh.
and she's just so overtaken by
The performance is she
the
just
performance and just being in a
monster.
place like that. You can tell she's never been in anything like that at all.
Yeah, this when they crisscross and you see Caliban is working his ass off, man. He's kicking
Yeah,
ass back there. He's all over that fucking stage doing shit all by himself.
this brings a lot of the different characters for the first time together. You've got Brona and Ethan, you've got Dorian Gray, you've got Vanessa, you've got Caliban, you've got Sam Benny, who
Yeah.
is there sort of in the background, I guess, acting as Vanessa's, bodyguard.
Vincent
Uh,
performing.
huh?
His dude Vincent performing, doing his performance on stage.
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
guy, the
Even
guy
though
that found him.
Caliban is working his ass off, you can tell he's just having a blast.
Oh
Um,
yeah, and he's doing a great job. Like I don't think one person does that job usually, but he is.
Yeah, and it's just such a great performance. Basically, it's the story of a werewolf
Right.
and this man who is, um, I guess he's involved with a much younger girl or something like that. And it's funny because she's just talking about how chaste she is, and somebody from the crowd yells, "Not for long."
Yeah.
Um, so he's the one character is trying to fight this thing that's going to happen to him, and he ends up turning into a werewolf. And it's just in my notes, I just put Penny Dreadful because that's what a Penny Dreadful was. They were these cheap, slasher horror stories
It's so
that
cool
they
though.
sold for a dime, huh?
It's so cool though because it shows you how simple the performances were then. Yet the performances were really great because they had to do 10 times more. You know what I mean? They
Oh
had a
yeah,
lot less to work with. They didn't have no effects. They hadn't even got any decent physical effects yet. So it's all
yeah,
just being thrown like an explosion, and all of a sudden he's a wolf. You know, and
yeah,
she about shits her pants. She's like, "Oh my god," you know what I mean? So
yeah.
simple little things like that. These days, people would laugh at it. Then they were like, "Whoa!"
Oh yeah, because you had never seen anything like that before.
Right.
We talk about that when we covered some of the Universal monsters. That must have scared the shit out of people.
Oh
Like
yeah.
this, like now you don't think much of it to see Lugosi, doing that kind of thing, or Karloff, or Cheney
Right.
Jr. But back in 1931, people must have been shitting in their pants.
People said when Frankenstein came out that people were just like breathless. I guess there was like a huge sigh when that first scene when he backs in through the door
Yeah, into the
and
doorway.
he turns around and they're like, oh, yeah, yeah, it freaked them out. Some people got up and left, I guess.
Yeah, or like those scenes with Lugosi, like moving through the castle, and like at one point he's on one end of the spider web, and then you're going up the stairs. Suddenly he's on the other side. That must have
Yeah,
freaked people out. You
yeah,
know, um, even something like King Kong back in '33.
yeah.
To
With the
have
stop
seen that
motion,
monster, that must have scared the shit out of people.
that was some of the beginning of the 20s where they started the stop motion, but they were really perfecting it right about the time of King Kong, and
Yeah,
it just blew people's mind because yeah, I would love to have been around then to see that shit birthed and to see it actually develop. That would have been so cool.
speaking of stop motion, have you seen Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio?
Not yet.
That
That's what I'm
is
looking for.
probably the best stop motion you'll ever see.
Cool.
You
Yeah,
can't believe
my son's looking.
you cannot believe that it's not just all digital.
Awesome.
It's unbelievable. It's on Netflix, so if
All
you get
right.
a chance, um, unbelievable. So I mean, I love the one scene where the old guy who plays the man before it becomes the wolf goes down below stage. He's like, my fucking knees aren't going to be able to take this performance anymore, you know. And
Vincent,
they've got, I love the props like you're talking about. They've got this tube running down the woman's dress that sort of comes up here where you can't see it. And he connects the blood, and Caliban's pumping the blood from under the stage, and it's just these great gouts of blood are like spraying over her everywhere.
with a big old grin on his face, like
yeah,
he's a little kid, like he's a little kid playing. He loves that fucking job, man.
yeah. Just a great fucking scene, and like you said, an example of probably, how awesome those old stage performances must have been.
Yeah.
I mean, they're sitting down. What does he order her? He gets Broner an orange.
Yeah.
And that's probably considered a big treat back then.
Yeah, I wonder when the last time she was on a date like that was. I'm not sure she ever has been.
I doubt ever.
Yeah,
I doubt ever. And that's what I was. That's what I was getting to. Her self-esteem. It's not even low. I don't think she has any self-esteem.
Right.
And it becomes apparent very soon when all the people from the different backgrounds end up connecting.
Yeah.
And we've got Vanessa, and she's meeting Ethan and Brona, and you can tell automatically that Brona's uncomfortable.
Yeah, because she recognizes Dorian, and
she recognizes. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was saying there she is with her boyfriend running into a John of hers. So it's John meets boyfriend, and she just flips. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she's also. I think she's very intimidated by Vanessa.
Right.
Because she calls her man.
Right.
There's this whole, where she, sort of steps down, to give Vanessa, her place, this sort of thing. Yeah. And then you're right. She runs into Dorian Gray, and that's just too much.
Yeah.
That's just too much, because not only has she banged this guy, she's, coughed up blood all over him, and there's just no... there's no way that that's going to work. There's no way that that's going to work. And she's out of there really fucking fast. And then I think the side of her that's there also ends up turning on Ethan.
Yeah. Oh, man. Josh Hartnett is absolutely great in this scene, because when all this happens, he's got this look on his face like, what the hell just happened? He's just like, he ain't done shit, and somehow she's telling him, why don't you just go back in there to her, and the next time you see each other, you just be just like everybody else. You'll pay for it. And he's just like, what the hell's going on? He has no clue what the hell just happened.
We were just having a nice time 5 minutes ago. You were having the time of your life, and suddenly, because he doesn't understand the context, he doesn't. I don't think he fully gets how damaged she is.
Right.
He doesn't get that. Like, he's seen these one-on-one sort of interactions, that they've had together, and within those parameters, it works. But once you start to put her in a larger circle, she can't handle it.
Well, and also, one point I wanted to bring up about the relationship between Brona and Ethan is a lot of people in Ethan's position there, even though he knows where she's from and she's told him stories, a lot of people in that position feel like they can fix the situation. Like, them being there and them loving them will fix it, just automatically make it better. Yeah. And they'll be able, you know what I mean?
That's a great point.
He thinks that he could fix that. He thinks he can make it all better. And he just lied to himself, because it just doesn't work that easily. But a lot of people will tell themselves that.
Not to mention that they're sort of working around the fact that she's dying.
Right.
She's dying.
Right.
She's going to die. She's probably going to die very soon. And she clearly is not dealing. She's avoiding it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
He's
and
definitely
so
avoiding it.
he's avoiding it, you know,
Yeah.
because she doesn't want to deal with it. But I mean, it's apparent, it's right there because it only took two people to show up for her to have a complete fucking meltdown, you know, from
Yeah.
to go from, you know, like the best night of her life, you know, in terms of having fun to, you know, just being down, you know, in the toilet.
She doesn't feel like
And
she's good
so,
enough for him.
huh?
She doesn't feel like she's good enough for him.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really awful scene. It's awful for her. It's sad. And like you said, Josh Hartnett doesn't know how to deal with it. And she just stomps off. And then the next thing you know, you see her and she's just coughed
Coughing
up
up
in a doorway somewhere and she's sobbing and she's, you know,
blood
she's
everywhere.
yeah, she's damaged and she's grief stricken. And yeah, she's a fucking mess. So that brings us back to um, the house. Oh no, that brings us back to him running into Dorian Gray. And he
Yeah.
ends up taking Ethan to what is probably one of the worst fucking things I've seen. And again, you know, coming back to the idea that the worst things going are people.
Right.
He takes Ethan to this underground game with this huge pen,
Yeah.
boxed in area full of rats, and they drop this fucking dog in the middle of it. And the first time I saw it, I'm like, are these fucking dogs going to eat this? Are these rats going to eat this fucking dog?
Yeah, it's kind
But
of what I thought too. But that dog's a nasty motherfucker, man.
yeah, this isn't Old Yeller we're talking about here. This isn't Lassie. This is some, you know, feral fucking dog that they just drop in there and it just kills all the fucking rats. So the dog is probably sick as fuck too.
Yeah.
You know, diseased, you know, some diseased fucking dog that they just drop in there. And it sort of triggers Ethan to want to get the fuck out of there. He's not enjoying that. You know, he's struggling with, you know, all these other things going on. And he ends up fucking, you know, getting out of there. But, you know, that's not fucking good enough because what ends up happening is he ends up in a fucking bar fight.
Yeah, yeah, but the British dude, you're a rude one, aren't you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, with
This is
those asshole fucking British people who just kind of want to pick a fight with him because he's
American.
American. Yeah, they just kind of are drunk and looking to pick a fight. And they are the type that you certainly don't mind watching get beat up.
Right.
But I don't think it goes Ethan's way. There's four of them, and you know, one of Ethan, and you know, he probably gets. It looks like
No,
he
I'm just
got a few
saying,
shots in, but then he took a few shots too.
considering it was 4-on-1, he looked pretty good afterwards. So I mean, he must have done pretty good at least. And it jumped scenes, so I'm guessing Dorian came along and everybody broke it up before it got too stupid. But hell,
Yeah,
he did pretty damn good.
yeah, he seemed to have done well enough. Um, I'm trying to think, when does that fucking start? Hold on. At what point does? Well, we're also forgetting about something, um,
Yeah,
and
it
that's
goes back to
the home invasion.
right.
There's a
Yes,
fucking home invasion that happens, and we're seeing another one of those fucking vampires just suddenly fucking appear um, in the fucking in the house. One
yeah,
of those nasty ones, like from the first episode.
yeah. After Fenton had chewed through his shackles or whatever, yeah, and follows them up. Now he referred to his master. Now was that the master? Because we didn't get to see, because as soon as that one sees that crucifix, he takes off through the window.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's definitely one of the upper level vampires. I mean, I suppose that is Fenton's master. We're not going to see too much more because Fenton is fucking killed.
Was in her room.
Yeah, they were all waiting in Vanessa's room. So it's just a nasty looking bastard. suddenly that fucking appears in your fucking bedroom, and
Yeah. He just got something about
yeah,
him that looks like he's a higher echelon of some sort. He
yeah,
just got
he's
that
the
look
high.
about him.
Hold on a second. We get a comment here. JFZX. It said face red, droopy eyes. I hope you're talking about the vampire, not one of us. uh, you know, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, certainly that's what fucking happened, and it leads to a big struggle, and Fenton ends up getting killed, and this fucker ends up getting away.
Right.
There's not much more to it than that. No real information is disclosed, so on and so forth. And then we get to the really weird fucking scene where Dorian Gray ends up pouring Ethan a bunch of absinthe.
Yeah.
And I still don't understand, like I said, why that's in there. And all of a sudden, Dorian Gray and Ethan the episode ends with them getting it on.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, where the fuck did that come?
He walks across. He walks across because he's having a bunch of flashes in his mind, and I mean, everything that's been bothering him is just all comes together all at once, and he comes walking across real quick, and you think he's gonna knock him the fuck out or something, and instead he snatches him by the throat and fucking gives the dude a big ass kiss.
Yeah, stuck his tongue down his throat. Now
I said, "Holy shit!"
I don't know. We'll come back to this later. Like I said, it's never. The thing about it is, it's never directly referenced again.
Right.
So I don't know if it's just a failure, and like for some reason they inserted a plot point that went nowhere.
I think maybe,
or when we find out more, when you find out more, maybe we can come back to it again. Because again, it's never directly referenced, but some information is going to be disclosed, and maybe then we can look at it and say, well, is this why this happened?
Yeah.
So on and so forth. But I mean, it's not much of a scene. Like I said, he's traumatized. He's upset about Brona. He got him fucked up on absinthe. He's flashing, and I don't know if he's just upset and he's like, I got to stick my dick in something. I don't
know. He just wanted to forget about everything that happened. It's one of those nights where he's just saying fuck it, and Dorian's looking to conquer one more thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so it's strangers in the night. That kind of thing.
Hey.
So
whatever makes him happy, I guess.
Yeah. It's all good. So I mean, there is one exchange at the end between Sir Malcolm and Vanessa. Where they exchange some barbs, but it ends up coming about, and we're going to find out more about this and each of their sins, because they both make reference that they've wronged Mina, that Vanessa has wronged Mina, that Sir Malcolm has wronged Mina. We're going to find out about that in the next episode. The entire next episode is basically about that.
Now, there was also a hint here earlier on in the episode, but I can't remember how it came about, but Sir Malcolm looks really, really weird, and I can't remember who says it. Maybe Victor Frankenstein says something, and Sir Malcolm kind of looks back at him. It's almost as if it kind of sort of hints in a roundabout way that Malcolm and Vanessa have had some kind of a relationship at some time.
You're going to find out about. They have a history.
So
they have a history that goes back a very long way.
Yeah, I caught that little tiny hint. It's a little tiny one, but I caught that motherfucker.
It's safe to. Well, I mean, I'll disclose this. They've known each other since Vanessa was a child.
Yeah.
Because her and Mina were childhood friends, and so Sir Malcolm is Mina's father, huh?
Sir Malcolm's had his hand in a cookie jar quite a bit, I do believe.
No, not that way. There's no sexual relationship between Vanessa and Sir Malcolm.
Ever?
There's nothing like that. There's nothing like that. Like I said, the entire background is going to be disclosed in the next episode. Okay. So we're going to have some flashbacks, some lengthy flashbacks, getting into the history of why things kind of went south.
Okay.
So we'll get into that then. We'll get into that then. But that's basically the episode.
Also, I found out that Reed Carney, that plays Dorian Gray, he also did the Broadway musical of Spider-Man, Turn Off the Dark. It was a Broadway musical about Spider-Man called Turn Off the Dark, and he played Peter Parker in it.
Did he really? Okay, I could see that. I could totally see that. I could totally see that. Oh, like I said, I mean, you've got a lot of A-list people, but a lot of the supporting people, like you said, like Rory Kinnear. Rory Kinnear is always good, but also, people like the guy who plays Dorian Gray. Very solid, very solid. You've got David Warner showing up in the 4th episode, just unannounced.
Yeah.
Just showing up out of nowhere. So yeah, I mean,
he also jammed with U2's Bono and Edge, and he played in Julie Chambers' The Tempest. So I find that while I was checking out some things, I just come across a few different things about him. I figured I'd pop out there and say.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah. So I mean, they've got some Shakespearean credits there. The Tempest, Othello, for Rory Kinnear playing Iago. Yeah, it's good stuff. Good quality, good casting. Good casting matters. Sometimes you can put something, you can pull some. Well, that's not fair. I was going to say sometimes, good casting matters, but sometimes, you can get a movie with no A-list stars and they still do a great job. This is full of, top tier talent, though.
He's got a lot of stage. He's got a lot of stage in it because David Warner comes from a stage background too, I think.
Sure, and I'm sure Timothy Dalton has been on the stage. And he's hot again. He's on the new Yellowstone series, 1923. He's the villain in that, opposite Harrison Ford. So it's Timothy Dalton on one side and Harrison Ford on the other. He's back on top again. If you're involved in that Yellowstone, that's as big as it gets right now. It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
A lot of people don't realize that all the old school actors, like all the golden age actors and all the way up until the 60s and 70s, most of those actors that you've seen on the screen came from the state.
Yeah.
That's where they started.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And they say that is the like in terms of that is the destination, to be on the stage, more so than to be in front of the camera now, especially now with all the green screen, and all that shit. It's not really acting. You hear so many horror stories. I think they said during The Hobbit, Ian McKellen broke down because he didn't understand how to interact with the green screen. Right. He just broke down and started crying, and he's like, I don't know what you're asking me to do. I don't know how to do this. These sorts of things. Whereas, being on the stage is, and you see the top, like Denzel Washington. He's going to be on the stage doing fences, or this person's going to be on the stage. What I always wanted to see was Bruce Willis when he was on the stage doing Misery.
Right.
I would have loved to have seen that. That was like a very prolonged Broadway production, the Broadway production of Misery with Laurie Metcalf as Annie Wilkes. Bruce Willis and Laurie Metcalf, and that just would have been something.
Great, man.
Yeah. So this was all when I was overseas, so I never got a chance to see it. But I would have loved to have seen Bruce Willis and Laurie Metcalf on Broadway.
That would have been interesting. Laurie Metcalf plays crazy really well.
Yeah.
Her whole character as Jackie was based on fucking crazy. Up front, her character as Jackie from Roseanne. She was out of her fucking mind, Jackie was.
Yeah. It's good stuff, man. It's good stuff.
She was the X Factor of that show. I always say that there's always an X Factor in the show, and she was that X Factor.
It's good. It's well, yeah. I'm not going to say it. I was going to talk about Bruce Willis for a second, but I don't want to do that.
I can't imagine Bruce on stage like that. I didn't know he had those kind of chops, man.
Well, I mean, you got to think about it. He's probably spending most of his time in a bed.
Right.
Misery is predominantly, Paul's bedridden for most of it, and then he spent, between a bed and a wheelchair.
That's a hard act to follow, though, man. James Caan. That's a
Yeah,
tough act
yeah,
to
yeah,
follow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing about the stage, You get a chance to
Right.
go again. Get it, and then you
Yeah.
go again, and then you go again, And so,
You can
you
almost
get more than
reinvent
one
it.
take, huh?
Yeah, and when you take it back to the stage, you can almost, when you take something that was a movie first, you can almost take it back and reinvent it on the stage. You
Yeah.
know, you take it from one to the other, it's the same thing, but yet it's two completely different things.
Hmm.
So,
So, is there anything that we did not discuss in the episode that you wanted to get into?
I don't think so. The only thing that was one thing was the conversation between Sir Malcolm and Victor when Victor gets jealous that Sir Malcolm asks Ethan to go to Africa with him instead.
Yeah,
That
I
kind of
mean,
surprised me.
well, I mean, you're going to
Why did
find
you?
out that Dr. Frankenstein, um, he's kind of an insecure guy.
And he
You know,
basically tells Victor that, hey, don't feel bad about it. Ethan is disposable. You're not. Is basically what he tells him. Fuck Ethan. I'd rather have you. You know what I mean? You're more important than Ethan.
I think that what happens here is that you're seeing that Sir Malcolm is. I think one, he sees that that Victor needs a little validation. He
Right.
needs a little boost to his self esteem because, like he said, he's not a physical guy.
Right. He gets
And
tossed
you always
around.
have those people that were never good at athletics or anything like that, especially the guys.
He's all
There's
brain.
always, that part of them that is just like, fuck, I was never good that way, and you could, especially back then, you could define that very much as being part of what a man is supposed to be. He doesn't
Mhm.
possess those qualities. He's a small, sort of skinny, kind of guy. So, I think a little validation, or a little pick me up from Sir Malcolm goes a long way.
What was
I
that
don't
guy?
know that he actually feels that way about Ethan, but I think he felt it was necessary to say in
Right.
the context of,
Makes sense. That makes
what
sense.
Victor was thinking at the time, just
Yeah.
to kind of put it to bed,
That
that
makes
kind of
sense.
thing. Yeah, because he says, it would be nice every once in a while in my life to be thought of as capable,
Right.
and he is capable. He's just not physically capable. Like when
Yeah.
he tries to help Sir Malcolm, with that, and he just gets flung across the room.
Right. Just
That,
he gets
yeah,
knocked on his ass back against the wall. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
So,
Malcolm's right though. Malcolm's right. It would be harder to get a brain like Frankenstein's than it would be to get a guy like Ethan. I mean, you
yeah,
know what I mean? So
yeah,
he is a little more valuable,
he
really.
is. But that's part of his insecurity,
Right.
and that's a part of anybody's insecurity. You focus on the things that you're not good at and you feel bad about,
What was
so,
that guy? What the hell was that guy talking about? Droopy eyes and red face.
I don't know. I think he was
who,
talking about the vampire.
who was that? Is he still there?
If he is, I don't know. That was the
Red
comment.
face, droopy eyes. I was like, yeah, okay.
I don't know.
For,
I don't know.
for a second, I was like, no, not me. I don't
Yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like, sorry. So we'll be back next week, next Sunday. We're now at the halfway point in the season. We 4 down,
Yeah,
4 to go. And then what we'll do is, what my plan is, we'll get to the end. Don't decide now. We'll get to the end of the season, and then we can decide, or you can decide. We can decide together if we want to continue into the next season.
cool. Yeah, well,
And,
I'm gonna check it out either way. But yeah, I
okay.
mean, I don't mind continuing. That's up to
Okay.
you too.
Okay. Yeah, no, it works for me. But let's wait till we get to the end, and then we'll know. We'll know.
But,
Okay. All right. Plug something.
oh man.
Plug something, Gore. More specifically, plug something this week. Plug this week.
Okay. Well, like I said, tomorrow night I come out with my new episode of my first solo episode of be premiering at 10 o'clock, 10 p.m. Eastern time. My brand new solo episode of Van Horror for All where I'll be discussing what's new coming out on 4K and Blu-ray, boutique label wise. At 11 o'clock, I will be doing a watch / community chat of House by the Cemetery from Lucio Fulci. Tuesday night, I will be doing for the horror of it with Ocean Chicks Films. We'll be doing Aliens from 1986.
Okay.
Wednesday, I'll be doing a doubleheader with Ginger Ninja. Mine will be Demons, and his will be Demons 2. Mine will be 11, his will be at 1 a.m. And then Friday, I'll be doing Film for Thought with my son, and we'll be doing The Lodge. We didn't get done last week. We're going to be doing it this week.
Okay. Wow. You got a full roster. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So for me, we'll be here on Wednesday with Eric as we cover episode 5 of Midnight Mass. Mike Flanagan's Midnight Mass. I can't wait to get into that. Yeah, Eric, I think like you, is really enjoying seeing this for the first time. Cool. Good stuff. And then on Thursday, I'll be doing a late show, 10 p.m. And we finally, because we couldn't do it last week for scheduling, because of scheduling snafus, we're going to get into Interview with the Vampire. So that's going to be an interesting movie to get into. Almost 30 years since Interview. Yeah, almost 30 years since Interview first dropped. I haven't seen it yet. For the purposes of the show, I'm pretty positive it's still going to hold up. It's an interesting vampire film. People have strong opinions about it one way or the other.
I like it.
Yeah, so do I. I had it on VHS, and then I had it on DVD. Now I have it on Blu-ray. It's currently streaming on HBO Max. So yeah, that's going to be a good time. All right. My thanks to the Gore folk for stopping by one more time. We're checking out some Penny Dreadful. All right, everybody. Thanks for everybody in the stream and in the chat. And we'll see you in the next video. All right. Have a good night, everybody. Peace.
Take it easy.